Our experience through Capstone has been interesting. We started with working on a mortar simulator where the player finds targets and fires at them using realistic controls for the mortar. The only issue with this project was the lack of substantial work after our first month. We were feature complete and didn't have enough content to justify 3 more months of work, and it wasn't the project that we really wanted to work on or deliver.
We wanted to try to utilize some of the systems we had already created in the mortar project in our next design, so we decided to turn it into a networked, player versus player based defense game. With this new idea, we wanted players to be able to build their bases, weapons, and actively defend their base while trying to destroy the base of the other team. We needed it to have realistic physics with good destruction feedback. When looking at what we wanted, we had a huge task in front of us, setting up networking and physics before we could even really start working on the design of it, while also being a month into Capstone.
After a long conversation with our instructors, we were pointed to Conan Exiles, a multiplayer survival action game made by Funcom. Conan already has networking and an in-depth building system. Rather than rush to make the systems ourselves, our team ultimately decided to move forward with making a full conversion mod of Conan.
The Conan dev kit gave us networking, a fluid physics system, AAA art assets, and solid mechanics we could incorporate into our game. The dev kit was well organized, and each blueprint had comments by developers that made it easier for us to understand the systems they had in place. This accelerated the development process, and helped us become familiar with the dev kit as a whole. We also learned as much as we could about the community of Conan, and got connected to Discord channel with other developers and other modders that allow us to ask questions, get help as we were starting out.
Growing pains are natural in learning new engines. The Conan dev kit was massive, and it took time for each of us to familiarize ourselves with its intricate systems. While this was definitely rough, we pushed through the initial learning curve and were able to hit the ground running after about 2.5 weeks of brute force development. We started out by trying to simply unplug nodes and disconnect code that we didn't want to use, but this ended up giving us several bugs and quite volatile builds. The best course of action was to work with what Conan had in place and integrate our systems into theirs. When we did have to edit the Conan systems, it was a lot of work to understand it fully at first before doing anything. This was also made difficult in several cases because we were locked out of their C++ source code in the dev kit. We weren't able to see how some systems worked at all. In those cases, we had to figure out a workaround to get the results we wanted with what was available to us. When it came to actually developing, we all had to learn networking on the fly and as quickly as possible to make sure it would work properly when on the server. There was a lot of trial and error at first, and a good number of our problems were fixed when we changed how it was replicating, where it was being called from, or changing the path of logic to execute it properly.
We also had some non-development issues. The Full Sail provided computers we were using were not able to run the dev kit or the game. They would crash and we weren't able to fully test or develop using them. It resulted in one team member getting a new laptop and all of us had to bring in our desktops to school. This way we could develop and run playtests properly. There were issues with some external things outside of our control. The first server provider we used caused us some problems with updating the mod and locked us out of some server files that we needed access to. We ended up switching to a different provider, making it work from there. The game itself presented danger as well. While in development, we knew there was an update coming that could break what we had working and cause us to spend a few days running damage control. Thankfully, when the update hit, nothing broke and we were able to proceed like normal. But this is still a potential issue for future updates.
There were a lot of hurdles that we went through to get to where we are now, but it resulted in a great learning experience for our capstone and a good piece for our portfolios. Not only did we get to simulate what it would be like to jump into a AAA studio mid-development, we were able to have something publishable immediately after we were finished with the project.
Mods have plenty of benefits, but they also have quite a few risks that shouldn't be ignored. Teams shouldn't just choose to use a mod kit because they can. Their first steps should be to lay out a solid design and all of the systems that they would want in their game. Afterwards, they should analyze their time constraints and the tools that they can use to get the job done in order to really showcase their design. If you decide on a mod, strong communication, organization, cooperation, and willingness to actually shut up and perform all need to be there. If one of those areas lack, your entire project will take the hit.
We want to thank the artists we work with, Victor Luca and Nathaniel Wisdom, for the great assets they provided for us, the instructors for help with design ideas and the overall focus of the project, and all those who played our game.